There's a certain weight to the air up here, on the 34th floor, where the city sprawls out beneath me like a map I've memorized but never truly explored. I'm Tessa, 67 years old, perched on the edge of a cream-colored armchair in my high-rise apartment, staring out through panoramic windows that stretch from floor to ceiling. The glass is so clean it's almost invisible, framing a glittering maze of lights and shadows far below. Up here, the world feels distant, untouchable, like a painting I can admire but never step into. My home is all sleek lines and modern edges, polished marble countertops in a kitchen where the appliances sit untouched, gleaming as if they've never known a spill or a smudge. The silence is the heaviest thing of all. It presses into every corner, seeping into the walls, wrapping around me like a second skin. Miles and we've been married for 42 years, and somewhere along the way, the noise of our life together faded. We don't fight anymore. We don't even argue over the little things, like who left the coffee pot on or whose turn it is to pick up the dry cleaning. But we don't touch either. Our mornings are a quiet dance of polite nods over toast and black coffee, a murmured good morning that carries no warmth, just habit. Miles is in his study now, as he always is this time of day. I can picture him without even looking, tall and wiry, his frame still sharp despite his 70 years, his thinning gray hair combed neatly back. He's probably wearing one of those crisp button-down shirts he insists on, even at home, the sleeves rolled up just so as he pores over another historical biography. I used to tease him about his obsession with dead generals and forgotten wars, but that was when his eyes still sparked with mischief, when they'd catch mine across the room and hold me there, like I was the only thing worth seeing. Now, those eyes are distant, clouded over with something I can't name. When he looks at me, if he looks at me, it's like he's seeing right through to the wall behind. I wonder sometimes if he even notices I'm still here. As for me, I've always been wiry too, though age has softened the edges a bit. My silver hair is pulled into a neat bun at the nape of my neck, a habit I picked up decades ago and never let go of. I've prided myself on staying active, on keeping my independence even as the years piled up. I walk every morning, rain or shine, looping through the park near our building with a briskness that surprises even me. But it's not enough anymore. The quiet of this apartment, the endless stretch of hours with nothing to fill them, it started to feel like a cage. That's why I took the part-time job, a position at a bustling corporate office downtown, all glass walls and hurried footsteps, a world so unlike the stillness of this place. Stepping into the office that first full week felt like walking into a different dimension. The space is all bright and open, a sprawling plan of glass walls and modern desks that gleam under the fluorescent lights. The air hums with the constant clatter of keyboards, the murmur of overlapping conversations, and the occasional burst of laughter that cuts through the noise like a sharp blade. There's a faint scent of coffee lingering everywhere, mixed with the sterile whiff of printer ink. I'm tucked into a small desk near the center of the floor, surrounded by colleagues who seem half my age, darting around with an energy I haven't felt in decades. They move like they're racing against some invisible clock, their voices quick and clipped, their hands always busy with phones or laptops. I sit there, taking it all in, feeling like a quiet island in the middle of a storm. It's overwhelming, but there's something exhilarating about it too, a stark contrast to the suffocating stillness of my apartment. Right next to me, at a desk that seems too small for his presence, is Adrian. He's the head of a department, though I'm still not entirely sure which one, and he's impossible to ignore. He's in his late 50s, I'd guess, with broad shoulders that seem to take up more space than they should. His dark hair is streaked with gray, giving him a distinguished look, and he's always in tailored suits that somehow manage to look effortless on him. But it's his voice that hits you first. Booming, confident, the kind that fills a room without even trying. He barks orders with a sharpness that makes people snap to attention, and when he laughs, it's too loud, too unrestrained, like he doesn't care who hears. And that grin of his, it's cocky, permanent, like he knows something the rest of us don't. Every time he walks by, or even just shifts in his chair, I feel the air change, like he's a force pulling everything toward him. I remember a moment on my third day that caught me off guard. I was hunched over my computer, trying to figure out some spreadsheet that looked more like a puzzle than a document, when Adrian leaned over my shoulder to point something out on the screen. I hadn't even heard him get up, but suddenly he was there, his presence so close it was almost tangible. His cologne hit me first, sharp and musky, a scent that seemed to linger in the space between us. I froze, not out of fear, but because of this sudden, intense awareness of him. I could feel the heat of his breath near my ear as he spoke, low and steady, explaining something I barely registered. His hand hovered just above mine on the mouse, not touching, but close enough that I could sense the warmth of it. I couldn't move, couldn't even breathe properly for a second, caught in this strange, suspended moment. Then just as quickly, he noticed my stillness. He paused mid-sentence, and I could feel his gaze shift from the screen to me, like he was trying to read something in my silence. My heart was racing, but I kept my eyes fixed on the monitor, pretending to focus, though I couldn't have told you a single thing about that spreadsheet. After a beat, he straightened up, his voice returning to its usual confident tone as he finished his explanation and stepped back to his desk. But that moment lingered with me, a quiet spark that I couldn't shake, even hours later when I was back in the stillness of my apartment. Over the next few weeks, something shifted between Adrian and me. Our interactions started small, little comments here and there about the weather or the chaos of the office, but they grew into real conversations, the kind that stretched longer than they needed to. We'd linger by the coffee machine, cups in hand, talking about things that had nothing to do with work. He opened up about his life in a way I hadn't expected. He told me about his divorce, how it happened over a decade ago, how it left him raw for years. He mentioned his grown children, scattered across the country, and how he throws himself into work to fill the empty spaces in his days, to keep the loneliness at bay. There was a vulnerability in his voice when he spoke about it, a crack in that confident exterior, and it caught me off guard every time. I found myself sharing too, though I was more guarded. I told him about how Miles and I have drifted over the years, how our home feels like a museum of a life we used to live, filled with silence instead of memories. I didn't say everything, but I said enough. There was a mutual understanding in those exchanges, a quiet recognition of the weight we both carried, even if neither of us dared to name it. One evening, everything seemed to crystallize. We were working late on a project, just the two of us in the office. The rest of the floor was empty, the usual hum of activity replaced by a stillness that felt almost intimate. The fluorescent lights were dimmed, casting soft shadows across the glass walls, and beyond them, the city skyline glittered like a sea of stars against the dark. Adrian suggested we take a break, and we ended up standing by the window, coffee cups warming our hands, watching the world below. The streets were alive with movement, cars weaving through traffic, tiny figures hurrying along sidewalks. But up here, it felt like we were in our own little bubble, separate from it all. I was hyper-aware of his presence next to me, the way his shoulder brushed against mine as he pointed out a landmark in the distance. That brief contact sent an electric jolt through me, sharp and unexpected, and I didn't step away. I couldn't. My breath caught, and I stole a glance at him. His eyes were on the city at first, but then they turned to me, searching, holding mine for a moment that felt like it stretched on forever. He didn't say anything, and neither did I, but the air between us was charged, heavy with something unspoken. When we finally finished for the night, Adrian offered to walk me home. My stomach twisted at the suggestion. I knew I should say no, should draw a line right there and keep things safe, professional. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, I nodded, murmuring a quiet "sure" as I gathered my things. We walked to the elevator in silence, the click of my heels and the rustle of his coat the only sounds in the empty hallway. The air between us felt thicker with every step, like it was pressing down on me, making it hard to breathe. When the elevator doors slid open, we stepped inside, and as they closed behind us, sealing us in that small, mirrored space, the tension became almost unbearable. I could see our reflections in the polished walls, me standing stiffly with my bag clutched tight, and him just a step away, his broad frame seeming to fill the space. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. Then, in a low voice, almost a whisper, he turned to me and asked, "Is this what you want?" The question hung there, heavy and unanswered, like a stone dropped into still water, sending ripples through every thought in my mind. I'm standing in this elevator, the hum of the machinery vibrating through the soles of my feet, a low, constant drone that seems to match the frantic rhythm of my pulse. The polished metal walls reflect distorted versions of us, our faces pale and ghostly under the flickering overhead lights. I catch a glimpse of myself, eyes wide, lips pressed tight, my silver hair still neatly pinned despite the chaos inside me. And Adrian, just to my right, his reflection sharper somehow, the lines of his face etched with a quiet intensity. The lights stutter for a moment, casting fleeting shadows across his features, making his dark eyes seem even deeper, like they're pulling me in. My hands tremble as I grip the strap of my bag, the leather slick under my fingers, and I can hear my own breathing, shallow and uneven, cutting through the silence between us. He's so close, not touching, not even reaching out, but his presence is a force, a magnetic pull that I can feel in every inch of my body, like gravity itself has shifted. That question he asked, "Is this what you want?" It's echoing in my head, over and over, each word sharper than the last. I want to say no. I want to press the button for the lobby, wait for the doors to slide open, and step out into the cool night air, leaving this moment behind me. I want to go home to Miles, to slip into our quiet, predictable routine, to pretend I never felt this heat, this pull. I can picture Miles now, sitting in his study, the lamplight glinting off his glasses as he turns a page, oblivious to the storm raging inside me. I think of the life we've built, the decades of shared mornings and silent evenings, the way we've weathered every hardship together, even if we've lost the spark along the way. Saying no would be the right thing, the safe thing. It would keep everything intact, keep me from shattering the fragile balance of our world. But then there's Adrian, standing here, looking at me with an intensity that strips away every layer of pretense. It's not tenderness in his gaze, not some romantic promise of forever. It's raw, unfiltered, a hunger that mirrors something buried deep inside me, something I haven't felt in so long I'd almost forgotten it existed. And God help me, I crave it. I crave that feeling of being seen, of being wanted, even if it's just for a fleeting, reckless moment. I'm torn in two, standing on the edge of a cliff, knowing one step could send me tumbling into something I can't come back from. I feel the elevator shift slightly under us, the cables creaking as we descend, the numbers above the door ticking down with agonizing slowness. Adrian moves, just a fraction, his shoulder angling closer, and the edge of his sleeve brushes against mine. It's the smallest gesture, barely a touch, but it's like a spark igniting dry tinder, sending a jolt through me that I can't ignore. My breath catches, and I don't pull away. I should. Every rational part of me is screaming to step back, to put space between us, to think of Miles, to think of the promises I've kept for 42 years. But my body isn't listening. Instead, I find myself leaning, just the tiniest bit, into that charged space between us, as if drawn by some invisible thread. My heart is a drum in my chest, pounding so hard I'm dizzy with it, and my mind is a battlefield, torn between guilt and desire, between the life I've always known and this dangerous, fleeting pull. I glance up at the numbers again. 3 floors left, then 2. And I know I have only seconds to decide, to choose which version of myself I'm going to be when those doors open. The weight of it is crushing, like the air itself is pressing down on me, making every breath a struggle. The lights flicker again, a sudden stutter that plunges the elevator into darkness for a heartbeat. In that brief blackness, the world narrows to just the 2 of us, and when the lights flicker back on, it's like a switch flips inside me. I turn to Adrian, my breath still ragged, and before I can think, before I can stop myself, he's already moving closer. His hands find my waist, firm and unhesitating, pulling me in, and I don't resist. I can't. The space between us vanishes, and then his lips are on mine, urgent, almost desperate, a kiss that tastes of bitter coffee and something darker, something forbidden. It's not soft or tender. There's no romance in it, no whispered sweet nothings. It's raw, a collision of need that's been building for weeks, a silent agreement that neither of us dares to voice. The elevator walls seem to close in around us, the mirrored surfaces catching fragments of this moment, my hands gripping his jacket, his fingers tightening on my waist, our reflections distorted and fleeting, like ghosts of who we're supposed to be. I lose myself in the heat of it, in the way it drowns out every thought, every doubt, for just a few stolen seconds. His stubble scrapes against my skin, rough and real, a sharp contrast to the cold metal of the elevator wall pressing into my back as I lean into it. Or maybe he pushes me there. I can't tell. My heart is racing so fast I think it might burst, hammering against my ribs like it's trying to break free. I can feel the warmth of his breath, the strength in his grip, the way my own hands tremble as they clutch at him, desperate for something I can't name. But even as I'm caught in this storm of sensation, there's a war raging inside me. The thrill of feeling wanted, of being seen after so long, it's intoxicating, like a drug I didn't know I needed. It surges through me, electric and alive, waking up parts of me I thought had long since gone dormant. But underneath it, clawing at the edges of my mind, is the guilt. It's sharp, relentless, a blade twisting in my chest. With every second I let this continue, I think of Miles, of the life we've built, of the quiet trust that's held us together for over 4 decades. I've shattered something sacred, something I can't ever repair, and I know it even as I cling to Adrian, even as I let myself drown in this moment. It ends as abruptly as it started. The elevator dings, a sharp, jarring sound that cuts through the haze, and the doors slide open with a mechanical hiss. We pull apart, breathless, the air between us still charged, but now heavy with something else. Reality, maybe. I can barely look at him as I straighten, my chest heaving, my lips still tingling with the memory of his. Adrian's expression is unreadable, his dark eyes fixed on me for a moment before they flick away, giving nothing. He doesn't say a word, and neither do I. My hands are shaking as I adjust my coat, fumbling with the collar like it's the most important thing in the world, a flimsy attempt to pull myself together. I step out into the lobby, the cool night air hitting me through the glass doors like a slap, sharp and sobering. Adrian follows a step behind, his presence still looming, but we don't speak as we walk the short distance to my building. The silence between us is deafening, thicker than it's ever been, filled with everything we're not saying. The city hums around us, distant car horns, the murmur of late-night pedestrians, but it feels like we're in a vacuum, cut off from it all. When we reach the entrance to my apartment building, he stops, gives me a curt nod, nothing more, and turns away. I watch his broad shoulders disappear into the night, and I'm left standing there, alone with the weight of what I've done. I don't move for a long time. I just stand outside the building, staring up at the lit windows of our floor, knowing Miles is up there, probably asleep by now, oblivious to the storm I've just unleashed. The guilt settles over me like a shroud, heavy and suffocating, wrapping around me tighter with every passing second. I finally force myself to move, pushing through the glass doors of the building, the familiar hum of the lobby barely registering as I step into the elevator again. This time, I'm alone, and the mirrored walls mock me with my own reflection, disheveled, pale, my eyes hollow with something I can't name. The ride up to the 34th floor feels endless, each floor ticking by like a countdown to a reckoning I'm not ready to face. My hands are still trembling as I clutch my bag, the memory of Adrian's touch burning into my skin, a ghost that won't let go. I try to steady my breathing, to push down the chaos swirling in my chest, but it's no use. The doors slide open with a soft chime, and I step out into the dimly lit hallway, the silence of the building pressing down on me like a weight I can't shake. I creep into the apartment late at night, the silence heavier than ever before. It's not just the usual quiet that's always hung over this place. It's thicker now, oppressive, like it knows what I've done and is waiting to judge me for it. The city lights filter through the panoramic windows, casting long, jagged shadows across the living room. They stretch over the sleek furniture, over the polished floors, turning the space into something unfamiliar, almost sinister. I slip off my shoes, careful not to make a sound, and shrug out of my coat, hanging it on the rack by the door with hands that still won't stop shaking. Standing there in the hallway, I listen for any sign of life, and I hear it, the faint, steady rhythm of Miles' breathing coming from the bedroom. It's a sound I've known for decades, one that used to comfort me, but now it twists something deep inside, a reminder of everything I've betrayed. My heart is still racing, my skin still tingling with the memory of Adrian's touch, and I feel like a stranger in my own home, an intruder who doesn't belong in this pristine, silent world. I pad softly across the living room, my bare feet cold against the marble, and make my way toward the bedroom door. I stop just outside, my hand hovering over the frame, not daring to touch it, as if even that small act would shatter the fragile stillness. I stand there for what feels like hours, though it's probably only minutes, watching Miles sleep through the crack in the door. He's curled on his side, facing away from me, the blankets pulled up to his shoulder. The moonlight spills through the window, catching the edges of his thinning gray hair, illuminating the lines on his face. Lines that tell the story of our 42 years together, of laughter and loss, of a life built brick by brick. His expression is peaceful, softer than I've seen it in years, and it cuts me deeper than any words could. I've always known those lines, traced them with my fingers in quieter, happier times, but now they seem like a map of a place I've lost my way in. I wonder if he dreams of us as we used to be, or if even his dreams are as empty as our days have become. My breath catches in my throat, a quiet hitch that I smother with a hand pressed to my mouth. I can't move, can't step closer, can't even bring myself to cross the threshold into that room. I'm rooted to the spot, torn between the urge to crawl into bed beside him, to pretend nothing has changed, and the overwhelming need to turn away, to hide from the weight of his presence. The guilt is a living thing inside me now, clawing at my insides, whispering that I've broken something irreparable, something sacred that I'll never get back. I think of the way Miles used to look at me with that spark in his eyes, like I was his whole world. I think of the mornings we spent tangled in sheets, laughing over nothing, and the evenings we'd sit in comfortable silence, not needing words to fill the space between us. Where did that go? When did we become these hollow versions of ourselves, drifting through the same space but never really touching? And how could I find a way back to those moments, to the warmth and connection that once defined us, before it's too late? Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.